Chapter 246 The Soul Tool Hall is formed. Sun Wen scratched his head as he sat on the sofa. He had also drank quite a lot, as he was hosted by Shrek's 7 monsters earlier. Huo Yuao poured a cup of water for him. Sun Wen received the cup and said, "Thank you." Huo Yuao smiled slightly and said, "I should be the one thanking you. You gave up your privileges at the illustrious Virtue Hall to come to the Tang Sect. I'm very grateful to you." Sun Wen waved his hand and replied, "You don't need to be grateful. I'm only pursuing what I like. Other things are less important. Before I left the illustrious Virtue Hall, I submitted my sealed milk bottle research. At least I managed to fulfill my responsibility to the illustrious Virtue Hall." Huo Yuao was stunned. Teacher Sun managed to complete his research for the sealed milk bottle. Undoubtedly, the illustrious Virtue Hall would benefit greatly from this. However, he didn't say anything much. He could sense that Sun Wen was still very attached to the illustrious Virtue Hall. It was logical that he would repay them. Sun Wen looked at Huo Yuao calmly and smiled. "You indeed didn't disappoint me. I decided to come to the Tang Sect not because I was drawn by what you showed me. There are other reasons." As he spoke until here, he revealed a slightly disappointed look on his face. There have been great changes in the Sun Moon Empire in the last 2 years. Jing Hengchen is about to go to war. Huo Yuao furrowed his brow and said, "He must be on Shu Tianran's side." Sun Wen was stunned, and he asked, "You know?" Huo Yuao laughed. In fact, he was one of the causes. How would he not know? Sun Wen said, "As the Hallmaster of the illustrious Virtue Hall, Jing Hengchen's status in the Sun Moon Empire is extremely high. He's like an advisor. His involvement in the imminent war means that the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy will be dragged in, too. Even though the Crown Prince was at an advantage, the throne was the sole target of some people. They would either succeed or die trying. Why would they give up so easily? The illustrious Virtue Hall will no longer give me a quiet research environment. More importantly, the Crown Prince has always been very active. Once he succeeds to the throne, a huge war will start in the near future. I'm only a soul engineer researcher. I don't want to be involved with and stuck in a war. I don't want to be ambushed by the body sector again, either. My research requires stability. I'm not willing to rely on anyone either, even if it's on Jing Hengchen. I hate politics. The Tang Sect's atmosphere is very good and relaxed. Shrek City also holds a special position on the continent. I think I'm liking it here already." As he spoke to this point, Sun Wen revealed a smile on his face. Huo Yuao smiled too. "We're more glad that you're here. Maybe we'll be involved in a war in the future. However, no one will force you to do anything. It's fine if you do what you like in the Tang Sect. We'll do our best to handle external matters." Sun Wen nodded and replied, "That's great." He stopped for a moment at this point and looked at Huo Yuao. After a brief moment of silence, he said, "Yuao, have you thought of a future?" Huo Yuao was stunned for a moment and didn't understand what Sun Wen meant. Sun Wen looked at him seriously and asked, "Don't you think that you are too complex? No one is omnipotent." Huo Yuao finally understood what he meant and nodded. "Yes, I understand. However, I don't wish to give up on being both a Soul Master and Soul Engineer. I just proposed to Shrek Academy today that Soul Masters should be taught how to use Soul Tools." He explained his proposition to Sun Wen. Sun Wen nodded and said, "That's right, but it's different from your situation. You aren't just using Soul Tools. You are learning and developing them. You have even reached a deep level. I know it's very difficult for you to give up everything now. However, everyone's energy is limited. No one can be a master of all trades. You'll need to make a choice. You are talented in the aspect of Soul Tools. You have become a Class 6 Soul Engineer, even though you are still so young. You are even on the verge of reaching Class 7. I am almost certain that you will become at least a Class 9 Soul Engineer if you continue to work hard. You won't take more than 20 years, either. You might even become the youngest Class 9 Soul Engineer ever. However, I am also almost certain that every step from Class 7 onwards will become extremely difficult. I've been a Class 8 Soul Engineer for 8 years, and I'm only just approaching Class 9. My cultivation is still sorely lacking. If you want to become a Class 9 Soul Engineer, you'll be restricted by time in terms of your Soul Master capabilities. With your talent, it won't be long before you become a titled Douluo. However, it'll be very difficult to develop further if you invest your time in Soul Tools. Although a titled Douluo Class 9 Soul Engineer is very strong, and you might even choose to become a Class 10 Soul Engineer. Do you want that?" Sun Wen stood up and stepped forward slowly. "Your previous performance was too outstanding, and concealed some problems. However, these problems still exist. I saw everything that you've done in the illustrious Virtue Hall. Kid, you are too tired." His words seemed to touch Huo Yuao's soul. His body shuddered slightly. Sun Wen walked up to him and patted his shoulder. He said, "I invested all my energy in Soul Tools. As an 8-ring Soul Douluo, I don't even remember what my soul skills are. However, I had plenty of time to think. What about you? Do you have plenty of time? You don't. You don't even have time to think. In your case, you might not even reach your peak in both aspects. The worst case scenario is that you'll collapse. You're already a Soul King. It's time for you to choose. From the fighting style that you always use, I can tell that you see yourself more as a Soul Master deep in your heart, and not a Soul Engineer. Am I right?" Huo Yuao nodded slightly. Sun Wen said, "It's nothing much. I also think that you are more suitable to be a Soul Master. Compared to your talent as a Soul Engineer, your twin martial souls are undoubtedly more outstanding in the world of Soul Masters. Tapping into your greatest advantages is the correct path you should choose." Huo Yuao laughed bitterly. "However, I can't forego certain things." Sun Wen walked in front of him and patted his shoulder. "I won't make you forget them. Your research into Soul Tools will not be wasted, either, because you'll understand them better." The person on the spot is baffled, while the onlooker sees clearly. "How did you propose to Shrek Academy? Why have you become lost when it comes to you?" Huo Yuao was in a daze, and asked, "Are you suggesting that I should stop researching Soul Tools, and only use them?" Sun Wen shook his head and said, "You're only half right. I'm not asking you to stop researching, but to stop developing Soul Tools. With your foundational knowledge of Soul Tools, it's fine if you come up with new concepts when inspiration arrives. However, don't expend too much of your energy in this area. Since you have become a Soul King, you'll need to expend more energy and effort in the future cultivation of your martial souls. If you want to be one of the best on the continent, you have to be focused. At least 80% of your time needs to be spent on that most important aspect." Sun Wen's gaze started to turn passionate as he spoke until this point. "Do you know why I'm trying to persuade you?" Huo Yuao was slightly moved, but he didn't mutter a word. Sun Wen said, "That's because I'll be the person to design your Soul Tools in the future. When you reach the peak of the continent, the stronger and more complex the Soul Tools are, the stronger a Soul Master has to be in order to use them. There's one thing about you that moves me the most. Your knowledge. You are correct. The strongest individuals on the continent in the future will be the best Soul Masters equipped with the strongest Soul Tools. After seeing your human-shaped Soul Tool, my conception has changed slightly. Purely creating patterns and concepts of certain Soul Tools can no longer satiate my desire in the area of Soul Tools anymore. What I really want is to create the strongest Soul Tool in the world and create the ultimate combination of Soul Masters and Soul Engineers. The ultimate soldier." Huo Yuao couldn't help but open his eyes wide as he heard the words ultimate soldier. This was too coincidental. Sun Wen looked at him with a burning gaze and said, "This is also another reason why I was so willing to come here. Traditional Soul Masters don't accept Soul Tools and don't understand them. Soul Masters at the peak of the continent will not be my test subjects. However, you are different. You possess the outstanding talent of a Soul Master, and you are enrolled in the best Soul Master Academy. Your passion for Soul Tools is also very great, and you have a deep foundation there, too. Are you willing to be my test subject?" Huo Yuao laughed and bowed to Sun Wen respectfully. "Teacher, it would be my honor." Sun Wen rubbed his hands and said, "All right then, take out all your new inventions over these past few years. I'm very eager." Huo Yuao was puzzled. "Didn't you say you wanted to research on your own, in case you were affected by my research?" Sun Wen glared at him and said, "Don't you think I sounded very noble in front of others when I said that? Do you really think that I'd be unaffected? It's an embarrassing thing for a teacher to ask his student for his research products." Huo Yuao's lips twisted a little. He didn't expect Teacher Sun to have such a side to him. "All right, I'll give them to you now. However, there's a lot of content. It's not early, either." Sun Wen glared at him and asked, "What? Are you planning to sleep tonight? It's a waste of time to sleep on such a beautiful night. Cut the crap and hurry up." To Huo Yuao, he had no choice but to burn the midnight oil. However, Sun Wen was very eager. As they discussed more about Soul Tools, Huo Yuao also entered the same zone. They didn't sleep for the entire night. When the first ray of sunlight shone into the Tang Sect the next morning, the entire Tang Sect was dyed with a layer of dim gold. A youth was standing not far away from the Tang Sect, pacing up and down. There was a slightly nervous expression on his face, but it looked more like enthusiasm. "Am I too early?" The youth muttered to himself, let me wait for a while. As he spoke, he raised his head to look at the sky. His eagerness was evident. Finally, he couldn't take it any further as the sun rose further. He walked a few steps to the gate before knocking with the door clapper. Even though the Tang Sect had made significant developments in soul tools, they still used the most traditional and ancient gate. Knock, knock, knock. The crisp sound of the clapper rang out. It wasn't long before the door was opened. A youth in white poked his head out. Who are you looking for? The Tang Sect disciples were divided into official disciples and disciples in name. Official disciples didn't have any specific regulations for their attire, but disciples in name had to wear white warrior robes. They looked very neat and tidy. The youth outside replied, I'm looking for Huo Yuao. Is he around? The Tang Sect's disciple in name nodded and answered, Senior Huo is around. The youth was jolted, and said, I'll have to trouble you to inform him that Mosun is looking for him. In order to garner more respect from this disciple in name, he added, I'm from Shrek. Indeed, the disciple in name started to act more prudently. Please wait a minute. I'll inform him now. While Huo Yuao was still young, the Tang Sect was founded by the 7 of them. The disciples that had entered the sect later all called him senior, apart from some special situations. The youth who was pacing up and down outside the gate was Mosun, who had entered and risked his life in the great Douluo forest with Huo Yuao not long ago. He was one of the inner courtyard disciples valued and nurtured by Shrek Academy. Ever since he had returned, he had not felt calm. The all-terrain self-driving fort had left an extremely deep impression in his mind. On the way back to the academy, Huo Yuao had taught him a few control methods. Mosun also tried them out himself. It was his first time feeling that he didn't need anyone to protect him. In fact, even Huo Yuao didn't know how important Mosun was to Shrek Academy. In terms of abilities, an advanced student from the outer courtyard was able to easily defeat Mosun. However, his abilities were too special. At that point in time, Janla-san and Kaimai had only briefly mentioned how his auxiliary capabilities could be unleashed at long range. However, they didn't specifically state how great that range was. Even Huo Yuao had neglected this point. With Mosun's fighting strength, or rather, the lack thereof, how did he manage to enter Shrek Academy? Apart from Huo Yuao, who had entered the academy by pulling strings, he had been the one who passed the test the most easily. He only had one ring then, and had only exhibited one soul skill before he was admitted by the academy. He only demonstrated an ordinary enhancement soul skill, which was called Halo. How strong could his soul ring be? Its effect was naturally very average. However, it covered a circle a kilometer wide. This also meant that Mosun could enhance everyone within this area if he was willing to. What kind of concept was that? The enhancement was very negligible if only one person was enhanced that way. However, what if there were 10,000 people? If a certain aspect of everyone's abilities were enhanced by 10%, it would make for frightening numbers. As a result, he was greatly valued by the academy as soon as he exhibited his first soul skill. Not only was he directly admitted to the academy, but he was even immediately nurtured as a core disciple of the outer courtyard. Over the years, Mosun's cultivation had increased steadily under the special care of Shrek Academy's teachers. Although he couldn't compare to some other students of the same age from the inner courtyard, the rate of increase of his cultivation was faster than other soul masters outside of the academy. His innate talent was also slowly realized under such circumstances. Every soul ring he added would increase the region that he could cover with his halo. It was terrifying. After he obtained 6 soul rings, his soul skills could be used within a circle that spanned 6 kilometers. Shrek Academy had once formed a research group to discuss his special martial soul further. Their conclusion was that Mosun's martial soul had mutated and created something that couldn't be duplicated. When he exhibited his soul skill, the halo that he unleashed would resonate with the various elements in the air before assimilating them. His halo would be turned into a domain type ability that was very weak, but covered a huge area. If he fought in a war, how much would the overall abilities of those on his side increase? Mosun's halo's enhancement effect was very ordinary to soul masters. It couldn't compare to an outstanding tool soul like the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. However, his strength became more and more evident when there were more and more people around. His martial soul was born for war. As a result, Shrek Academy didn't value him any less than Huo Yuao. They had even decided to allow him to enter the Sea God's Pavilion when he gained 8 rings. However, Mosun had his own ideas after he was valued by the academy. He was still a youth, a passionate youth. As a soul master in Shrek Academy, how could he possibly not yearn to fight? Whenever he went out to train with his partners, he was always protected. He would practically do nothing as his partners went out to fight and kill. He could only unleash his halo that wasn't too effective for his partners. Mosun often imagined how he would charge his way into the enemy's fortresses along with the other inner courtyard students. However, could he do so? No, he couldn't. Among soul masters at the same level, he was one of the weakest. He didn't even possess any fighting soul skills. How could he charge into enemy territory? How could he fight his enemies? This was the biggest pain that Mosun held in his heart. However, he saw a glimmer of hope when he was in the great Douluo forest, something that could change his life. Huo Yuao's words moved him greatly. The shock that he received from learning about the all-terrain soul fort was also unprecedented. Under Huo Yuao's guidance, he had released a soul ray with a button and chopped down a thick tree. At that point in time, Mosun was so excited that he almost screamed. This was the first attack that he had ever unleashed as a soul master. Soul tools. Yes, I can try soul tools. Soul tools wouldn't clash with his halo, either. After being back for 2 days, his heart felt as if it were being scratched by a cat's claws. He spent the entire night without sleep. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. In the morning, he went to find Huo Yuao with black rings around his eyes, but he found out that Huo Yuao wasn't in the academy. Mosun knew that Huo Yuao and the rest of Shrek's 7 monsters were from the Tang Sect. He also found out the exact location of the Tang Sect from the other inner courtyard students before he made his way over. However, he didn't inform Kaimai about his intentions. After all, he didn't know how the academy would react if they found out he wanted to learn about soul tools. What if they weren't agreeable? Mosun had always been very grateful towards the academy for nurturing him. However, it was always his dream to become a warrior on the battlefield. Eventually, his dream trumped his rationality, which was why he was here. He first wanted to ask Huo Yuao whether he could become a soul engineer, and what kind of soul engineer he could become. Just as Mosun was formulating his approach, Huo Yuao walked out. Huo Yuao also had black rings around his eyes, which were also slightly red. Senior Mosun, what you are here for? Please come in. Huo Yuao was confused by Mosun's sudden appearance. If he were in his normal state, he might have been able to guess. However, he was too tired now. The entire night of discussion had turned his voice slightly hoarse. Mosun was a little embarrassed as he said, Yuao, apologies for coming so suddenly. If the Tang Sect isn't convenient, we can speak outside. Huo Yuao dragged him in and laughed. What's there to be inconvenient? There is no difference between the Tang Sect and the academy. Senior Mosun, you don't have to be so formal. Come on, let's talk inside. As he spoke, he couldn't help but yawn. Mosun was a little stunned as he looked at the younger student. He couldn't help but ask, you didn't rest well last night? Huo Yuao laughed bitterly. I didn't rest at all. I was discussing soul tools with the teacher until morning. Senior Mosun, it seems like you didn't sleep well either. Mosun laughed bitterly too. My mind was filled with soul tools. You gave me a huge biscuit, and this biscuit is absolutely delicious. Although Huo Yuao was a little lost, he quickly understood after he heard Mosun's words. Senior Mosun, you want to learn how to use soul tools, am I right? That's not a problem. I've already suggested it to the academy, and Elder Sun, Dean Yen, and Dean Shen have all approved it. The academy is about to start teaching everyone how to use soul tools. Mosun's eyes lit up. He knew he hadn't made a wasted trip after hearing this news. As Huo Yuao spoke, he walked into the hall. It was still early. Even if everyone was up, they were still washing up and having breakfast. The front courtyard was very quiet. Huo Yuao offered Mosun a seat and poured him a cup of water. After that, he said, Senior Mosun, you can ask me anything you want. As long as I know, I will answer you. Although he was tired, he had a good impression of Mosun, and was willing to give him a hand. Mosun also said without any hesitation, Yuao, you don't have to keep calling me senior either. I feel very embarrassed in front of you. As a senior, I'm not that capable. If you treat me as a friend, you can call me directly by my name. Huo Yuao smiled and replied, all right then. Mosun, you can ask me anything if you have any doubts. Mosun said, wow, can you tell me what level I'll be able to reach if I start learning about soul tools now? You should know that my martial soul is slightly special. When I exhibit my soul skills, I don't really need to control them, since they're all the main type soul skills. I've also learned many things in the academy, but I'm restricted by my martial soul. This knowledge only serves to enrich me. I want to be a soul engineer. I want to be like all of you, fighting against our enemies and not hiding behind everyone's backs. When he reached this last sentence, he sounded much more agitated. Who are you? I thought for a moment before asking, Senior Mosun, how old are you now? Mosun said, 25. Who are you? I said, you are already pretty old if you want to start learning about soul tools. All the aspects of knowledge regarding the creation of soul tools are very complex. You need to have a strong foundation first. It's very difficult. Mosun was anxious after hearing his words. However, didn't you tell me that? Who are you? Lifted his hand to interrupt him and said, don't be anxious. Let me finish speaking. You are indeed a little too old to learn about creating soul tools. However, it's not too late for you to start using them. For soul masters like the two of us, using and creating soul tools are completely different things. My suggestion earlier was for you to try using soul tools to protect yourself and increase your fighting strength. Mosun continued to probe. What standard can I reach if I only choose to use them? Who are you? I replied, if you are just using them, I recommend you use all-terrain soul forts because of your situation. Not only will they help you raise an all-around defense, but they are also very strong, since they are quite large. With sufficient milk bottles, you'll greatly enhance your survivability and fighting stamina on the battlefield. After Sun Wen's research of sealed milk bottles was completed, many soul tools could be greatly transformed. This was especially applicable for soul tools that were sizable. Even though it would take some time to charge them, they could be used for a long time without worrying about when the soul power in the milk bottles would be depleted. Furthermore, a soul master wouldn't have to worry about the depletion of their own strength. With the appearance of such milk bottles and the Tang Clan techniques, it was no longer a dream for ordinary people to use soul tools in the future. Mosun nodded and said, does this also mean that my fighting strength will increase as such soul tools become stronger? How long will it take me to learn how to use them? Who are you? I replied, you'll need at least a month to learn basic control of them. If you want to master them, you'll need at least 3 months. Controlling soul tools is a matter of practice. You are a soul emperor, meaning that you'll have sufficient time to practice every day. Mosun clapped his hands in excitement and said, great, I'll learn how to control this all-terrain self-driving fort then. After I return, which teacher from the soul tool department should I find to help me with my learning? Who are you? I was stumped by this question and replied hopelessly, you won't be able to learn all this in the academy now. The academy can only start from the basics, so that you can learn how to use a greater variety of soul tools in the future. Furthermore, the all-terrain self-driving fort was the product of my research on all-terrain exploration soul tools when I was in the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. I made refinements and eventually came up with it. There should only be one of it in existence here. Mosun was in a daze. One only. Can you sell it to me then? I know it's not going to be cheap, but I'll try my best to come up with the money. Who are you? I replied, I'm sorry, Mosun. It's not that I don't want to sell it to you, but because there's still a lot of confidentiality surrounding the techniques that were used in the creation of this soul tool, we must keep it a secret. In addition, there's still further research and development to be done. It's a first model for us. If we give it to you, we won't have anything to work with anymore. Let me drop you a suggestion. I'll give you priority to get one when Tang Sect starts to mass produce it in the future. Mosun was filled with disappointment. How long will I have to wait? I still have to learn how to use it. Who are you? I couldn't answer this question. Sun Wen was the only one who could answer how long it would take to produce this soul tool. There were many materials involved in making an all-terrain self-driving fort. There were even a few problems regarding its production that had to be rectified in various aspects. Furthermore, mass production would also reduce the quality of an all-terrain self-driving fort, since cheaper materials would be used for production. In addition, all this could only be completed after continuous tests. Who are you? I couldn't give him an exact time. Mosun furrowed his brow upon seeing how Who are you was being put in a spot. He was like a helpless person drifting in the ocean right now, who had found a life buoy, but the life buoy belonged to someone else, and he couldn't use it. Who are you? Asked. Actually, you can strengthen your foundation by starting to learn how to use basic soul tools first. Mosun replied, I understand what you mean. I'll learn how to use basic soul tools. However, your self-driving fort is too attractive. I'm already too eager. Do you think this could work? He paused for a moment at this point, as if he were very determined. He said, let me join the Tang Sect. In this way, I'll also have the responsibility of guarding the Tang Sect secrets. I can also learn about the self-driving fort at the same time. Will this work? Who are you? Jumped in shock. Mosun, are you certain? Although we've just been reestablished, we are still a sect. It's easy to enter a sect, but it'll be slightly more troublesome if you want to leave. Mosun said, since I've chosen to join the sect, why would I want to leave? However, will the Tang Sect be willing to accept a trashy person like me, who has no fighting strength? Trashy? Stop kidding. There are no trashy characters in our inner courtyard. If you are willing to join the Tang Sect, I'll welcome you with open arms and legs. Who are you? Was delighted, and his fatigue seemed to have disappeared. Although he didn't know the effective range of Mosun's halo, he guessed that it must be very strong given how greatly the academy valued him. Strong soul masters would also be very useful for his future plans. Mosun asked, after joining the Tang Sect, does that mean that I can? Who are you? Nodded his head immediately. Of course. You don't have to only use it in the Tang Sect either. I'm the only one in Tang Sect who knows how to use it. When we are in the inner courtyard, I can teach you. Mosun was elated, and said, that would be great. I'll learn it first. When you come up with a better one in the future, you must sell me one. Who are you? Chortled. You're part of the Tang Sect too. Now, don't mention anything about selling. I'll make it a priority to construct one for you first. Mosun answered eagerly, that's a deal. What kind of administrative procedures will I need to go through to join the Tang Sect? Who are you? Replied, wait a minute. I'll call eldest senior first. What? You dragged someone else over? In a courtyard too? Mosun, why does he sound so familiar? Don't tell me that he's the one that entered the Sea God's Pavilion when he obtained 8 rings. How did you do it? Bei spoke extremely quickly. He looked at Who are you as if he were looking at a freak. It had only been a few days. Who are you had brought several members into the sect. They included Nana, the soul engineers who were victimized by the Holy Ghost Church, Ji Juikan, Jing Zian, the 2 dark golden terraclaw bears, and even the chief researcher of the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. What could he not do? After one more night, another member came knocking on the door. He was even one of the future members of the Sea God's Pavilion. Bei had been in the academy for a long time already, and was even Eldermu's descendant. He naturally understood more about the situation in the inner courtyard than Who are you. So he naturally knew more about Mosun than Who are you. Seeing that Bei was shocked, Who are you touched his nose and said, eldest senior, I really didn't do anything. Mosun was just attracted by my all-terrain self-driving fort. However, you know that this thing can't spread. I didn't say anything before he offered to join the Tang Sect. Can't he do so? Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.